Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to On the Town with Tanya. I'm your host, and we thank you so much for joining us again this week. Appreciate you. This week's guest is one of my favorite comedians. He is the founder of Comedians International Network. It's a network where you can watch comedy live if you're in India, or you can watch it via Zoom anywhere in the world. And you can still watch it in India anywhere in the world, but you know what I'm saying. So he has created a platform for comics all around the world to help them have a place to develop and succeed. Please welcome the lovely Raouf Gangjee. Hey!
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you
and
for
Tanya,
being
looking forward to having you in our live show in London.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm excited. That was a lot of fun. And anytime I get a chance to perform, I never say no to you. Never. That's the only way we get better, right? Comics is to get on stage. That's it.
Absolutely. That's how you learn.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell young comics here too, for example, new comics. I say, look, nothing matters. Nothing matters. Just get on stage and perform. They ask me, should I tell this kind of joke? How long should my jokes be, etc. You learn all that by performing. That's the only way you learn. I say, don't listen to anyone. Get on stage and perform 100 times.
Right.
And you'll be a pretty decent comedian by that time.
Right. And that's why I love what you were doing, because during the pandemic, it was like, okay, what are we going to do here now? I mean, I had been doing stuff on Zoom, so it wasn't unfamiliar to me, but it became a thing like in the comedy world, like, oh, a real comic doesn't perform on Zoom. And then some comics were like, listen, we're comedy whores, so we'll do whatever it takes to make this happen. So we were like, I'm out here. What are we doing? So I appreciate you, because you took the time to master it and make it something nice. You were the only one who was paying talent for what they were worth or whatever, giving them some kind of compensation. Some people really just was like, nah, so we appreciate you for that. I know I do anyway.
Yeah, well, I think if comics should be ideally paid to perform generally, if it's a show and not an open mic. So I don't do that every time, but I try to when I can. Yeah.
Right. Well, you also do charity work for Smile organization. Can you tell us about that? Sometimes your shows are dedicated to that. So.
Yeah, we have that Smile series of shows. And the organization is also called, what's it called again? Just remind me. Something to do with the smile. I mean, that's appropriate for us. Yeah, it helps people smile. It helps people smile. People with cleft lips and palates who can't smile. And comedians want people to smile.
Right.
I don't want somebody sitting there in front of me with a cleft lip and palate, not smiling, looking like a freak. So, seriously, I would like to improve his smile, and he'd be happy and I'd be happy.
I think it's honorable. It's commendable. So guys, whenever you're at one of their Zoom shows, if you can tip, that's where it's going to. It's going to the Smile organization, which helps children with those palates. So it's a good cause, and you get to laugh. So you can't beat that. So Raouf, you have you're in 27 cities in India.
I've lost count, and I don't even know what's happening in some of the cities. I've started these groups in different cities. It's at least 27, and some of the cities, some stopped functioning during the pandemic, and some picked up again. And it's just too much for me to follow, because now I've got groups in cities in other parts of the world, and some of them are doing live shows as well. A lot of groups are doing Zoom shows, but I'll slowly have more live shows as well. Eventually, I'll lose count of those too, and I have no fucking. Sorry, I shouldn't use that word. No idea what's happening. But as long as it's growing and people are doing comedy, it's good.
Yes, and you've been doing comedy how long now?
I started in 2012, but I was just performing once or twice a year because there was nobody else doing comedy. I started a comedy group here in Calcutta, and I needed other comics to learn comedy myself with. So I offered a price of 1 lakh rupees. That's not a lack of money. It's 100,000 here. Okay, a lakh is 100,000, and not LACK, but LAKH, and that's a big prize here. And still only about four people came to try out. Can you imagine if I'd offer that much today, I'd get the whole city coming to my open mic. But at least I discovered a few people, and then we started, and we were not doing much. We were doing 1 or 2 performances a year. No, we didn't know what an open mic was. We just jumped straight on stage and started performing. Of course, and so then after a few years, it started picking up. And now, as in every other city, there are too many comics here.
Wow. Yeah. No, well, the thing is, I think we get separated at some point, because if you're still in it 9 years, then that's probably your calling. But there's a lot of people that drop out after years 5, 6. About 5 and 6 is when I see people. That's when they're like, I'm taking a break. I can't do it anymore. And it could be other reasons, but I just think if it's something that's your soul calls you to do, you'll keep doing it. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
If I'm not doing this, then I mean, my only reason why I did comedy, because I wanted my own late night show. That's it. That's the only reason why I got into it. And I love making people laugh. So don't get me wrong. Yes. That's my number one priority. But most stand-up comics, they live for the stage. I live for the interview. That's what I live for. So okay. I don't know if I'm a cheating comic. I don't know what you want to call me, but I'll take it.
Well, they're both live performances, and they're both interaction, and they're both good fun.
Yes.
A lot of people do drop. Well, there are a lot of comics who can't really afford to do comedy all the time because they've got to keep doing their job. But then I tell them also, do it when you can. Come to an open mic here when you can. It doesn't matter how fast you do it, but try to do something like 100 open mics. Whether you do it in 100 days or 5 years, it doesn't matter really. It doesn't really make a big difference. Just try to get to a significant number, and then you'll be good enough to start doing spots and shows and so on. And then you can decide how much you want to do it, whether you want to leave your job or whatever, or be penniless and be happy or whatever,
Well, how did you get into comedy? Like, when was the first time that you knew laughter, you were onto something with laughter?
I was, always fooling around in class and so on. And then I gave the graduation speech at my university in the US. And it was, as far as I know, seriously, because some time ago, graduate speeches were taken too seriously, as they still are here. And to the best of my knowledge, I was the first person ever to give a funny graduation speech in the US after college. I've not found anyone else who's done it before me. I could be wrong, but I've not found anyone else. It was very rare at that time. So I did that, and so I did things like that. And then when I came here, I did nothing for a while, but eventually somebody started doing stand-up comedy here. An English guy called Don Ward. You've probably heard of him, the Comedy Store, right? You've heard of the Comedy Store.
Comedy Store,
right?
Yeah.
So he started one here. And so I went there, and then I decided to start something in Calcutta.
Oh, wow. Nice. And what do you remember your first joke ever?
First joke or first performance? My first joke ever was probably a bad one. Everyone's first joke is a bad one.
Okay. And your first performance, what was it that made you say, this is where I need to be?
Well, my first performance, I mean, if you count things like speeches, then I've always, because, it's like open mics make you a better comic, and fooling around and getting bad grades, but being funny in school, in class is also fun. So I did that, and that's like practice. It's like an open mic, it's like, that's why some people say, oh, this guy's naturally funny. No, nobody's naturally funny. It's just that they grow up trying to be funny, and they're very annoying and make bad jokes in the beginning, but then they get better. Right. So it's like training, and eventually they do become funny.
Wow. Yeah.
So and then I for some reason enjoyed doing that, and then I started doing these speeches and performances, and whenever there was a speech to be given or something, I used to do it in a funny way. And by the time I got to the higher classes, I had a lot of practice, so it always went well. So I enjoyed doing that, and then after college, after the graduation, I just forgot about it. And after a while, it took a long time, but stand-up comedy came here, and then I said, let's do this. I had not done stand-up before. I'd given funny speeches, but then I wanted to try that. So then I started a group here.
Wow. Do you remember your first bomb? But not B-O-M-B. Do not come and flag me, please. That's when the comic fails.
I mean, everybody bombs once in a while, and that's what an open mic is for. You probably heard that, right?
Yes.
You go to open mics to bomb. The purpose of going to open mics is to bomb, to try your jokes and see what works and what doesn't work. And if you don't take risks and try jokes that you're not sure about, then it's not going to work. And if you try those jokes, you're going to be bombing once in a while. So we're quite used to that and quite happy with that because if you do that, if you go to open mics to bomb, then you don't bomb at shows usually because you know what works. If you've done it enough times, and that's what comics ideally should do. So they should practice their jokes at open mics and refine them, and then they can do them in shows and be pretty sure that they don't bomb. Usually, it depends on the audience. You get different audiences. As you know, I'm a wordplay comic, so I have to be very careful because nobody likes wordplay comedy. So I have to select carefully. And for example, I live here. I am an English comic, but comedy is 99% Hindi now. Okay, there's no English comedy. So I get called sometimes for corporate shows where they want English, or sometimes they have employees on Zoom shows, for example, who are somewhere in Peru or something, and they can't understand. So even if they have one or two of those employees, they have to have a comedian performing in English. So I get called for those shows sometimes. But otherwise, I also have to try to throw in some Hindi and Bengali in my joke, which is not easy because I don't speak those languages well. But since I'm a wordplay comic, if you give me one word, I can make a joke out of it. So I have some really good Hindi and Bengali, but they're all one-liners because I couldn't really tell a full joke well because my grammar is bad in Hindi and Bengali. So I just tell an English joke, finish with a good Hindi Bengali punchline, and I never fail to get a laugh with those because there's no wordplay comedy here. Nobody in Hindi or Bengali, there's not a single wordplay comic here. It's something new. So when I do a wordplay joke in Hindi and Bengali, it works well usually.
Nice. Yeah, that's I noticed another thing at your mics. I saw women because it took a while. When I was going to open mics, I'd be at a mic with like 30 guys and be the only female. Forget about being African American, but I'd be also the only female. And I didn't mind. Nobody was. Only one time someone was really nasty and racist.
I wouldn't mind having 30 girls. I wouldn't mind. Anyway, carry on.
I was very excited to be around 30 guys. Unfortunately, none of them were my type, but it was still a good concept. Especially when they try to do the D jokes and try to intimidate me, and then I'm after them. So you know what I do. That gives me the atmosphere for doing the roasting, right? It's like a perfect atmosphere when you start trying to intimidate me as the only girl in there with those kind of jokes and think that I'm going to sit, oh, look at these jokes. Oh my God, it's jokes. I don't care. As long as for me, I don't have a limit, but I do have one on when people do out blatant racist jokes. I don't like it. That's my everybody says, well, it's a comedy. You got to work it out. No, you do not have to work out. Like one time I was at a open mic and this Italian comic said, it was in Pleasantville, New York. He said, he went to me. I was the only girl and the only, was there another person? No, I think I'm the only African-American in there, which I didn't care about. That doesn't intimidate. I grew up in an area. I'm used to it. Doesn't matter. And so he says to me, he looks dead at me. This is when Trump was in office. He said, yeah, I think we should be like Trump and be able to say what we want to say. And he looks dead at me and he says, did you see Planet of the Apes? And everyone, and I knew right away, oh boy, my stomach sunk. Like, am I going to jail today? And he goes, I did, and I'm going to rename it Planet of the Black People. And so you know what happened at that moment. I mean, anybody who knows me knows that his set was instantly stopped. Like there was nothing he could actually say to go back after that. And luckily, the other comics, for the most part, two particular
supported you
and got on stage too and said, no, not here, not today, bro. That's not even a joke. Like, so
yeah, that's not even funny. It's not even funny. Yeah.
I was trying, as a comedian, I was trying to find the humor. I was like, okay, take this angle. He called this angle. No, there is no angle for that. I was like, if you were going to call me something, I think it's the octagons that's the smartest in the jungle. Or I think that's the one. Is like you can't even give me like a proper, like, no, there was nothing funny about it. And so long story short, when we're at these mics, we have to develop a tough skin sometimes because there are race jokes, but I don't accept racist jokes. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll sit by and someone says a comparison from me and my Latino friend. Okay, fine. I'll take it. No problem. But if they start saying Latinos are, or people with hats are, then that's when I have a problem.
Well, it depends on how you tell the joke. You can, if you're telling with goodwill, you can actually get away with some even racist jokes sometimes if they know that you're not trying to be nasty. You can do it. It all depends on the context. I mean, ultimately, anything can be funny if you tell it in the right way, and if you're not trying to hurt anyone, really,
Right, and that is true. I mean, I've seen comics I never would have, I never laugh at any kind of abuse jokes at all. Like, I think we're not doing that. No,
what abuse? Sorry?
But, I can't say the word. Everybody's not saying the word on YouTube, so I don't want to say it because I don't know why they're not saying it. S abuse.
I didn't get that. I didn't get that. What abuse? Say the letter. What?
S abuse. S with take out the don't put the middle one and X at the end.
Okay, all right.
Okay, R blank PE jokes. Did I spell it wrong? Oh, like wait a minute. I know I went to NYU for something. Well, rape jokes, and sexual abuse jokes. Those kind of jokes. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. No. Those jokes can't really be funny. I don't see how those jokes can be funny.
One guy who was a victim found a clever way. I had never seen this in my life before, and it was my fault for putting it out there. We were doing a lightning round at an open mic. And so they were like, yeah, so why don't, so give a topic, name a topic. And someone put out there the first time you had whatever X. And so now it sounds like, okay, well, this comic basically in a funny manner, which if you're the victim, it can be funny because they're taking power of it and they didn't make it. If you're making fun, if you're agreeing with the person that did the bad thing, that's when it's like, nope, can't do it.
Yeah,
but if you're the victim making fun of the person that did the dirt and you do it cleverly, now you can get a laugh. And that's what he did. He took the whole thing and made it into the most, I've never seen nothing so funny in my life. That I mean, when it comes to that, you're like, that's not funny. But he took it as his own. He says, and actually it was unfortunate. It was abuse, basically, in my opinion. But he took it from a perspective of a young person making fun of them. Like the first one was, FAT, and the second one was ugly, and that perspective rather than, if he really did it clever. I must say, as a personal victim, as a child victim, I do not laugh at any of those jokes. That was the first time in my life that I ever laughed, and I saw clearly, if you're going to do it, like you said, it's how you say it.
Yeah. That's what I think. Yeah, that's what I think. Because words are just words, and it's what you mean with those words. And because words in themselves mean nothing. It's just a language. Every language is different. Our words mean nothing in another language. So it's how you use the words and what you're trying to do. And people understand that. I think usually understand that. They usually understand what the comic is trying to do. If he's trying to hurt people, then the audience understands that.
Right.
Sometimes, sometimes though, audience have a tolerance level which is a bit too low, though, and that's a problem that comics have these days. There are a lot of things you can't joke about, which I think you should be allowed to joke about. Okay. I mean, as long as you're still, again, not trying to hurt people. So that is a bit of a problem these days. It is. Yes. But I mean, of course, the big topics you're talking about, that's a different thing. Generally, one can't joke about that because one is usually trying to be mean or nasty or something. One isn't trying to be nice when one does that usually. If one is trying to be nice, you can. I think you can always find a way to talk about anything at all because the audience will understand what you're trying to do.
Well, I'll give you an example of it's a real fine line. You better be really good. So I saw one comic who's very well known in the city. I won't say his name, and he's very well liked, even though, in my opinion, he's a racist. But he's very well loved. I mean, Trumpsters love him. They love him. But and I must say, as a comedian, he's very clever. I mean, he's so clever that even me, as a person who would probably be a butt of his jokes, wouldn't even know that he did a joke till after I'm laughing. You see, that's how clever he is. They're like, you're like, wait, what am I laughing at? That's not funny. Right? So that's funny. He's clever. But one day, I wasn't so sure when he made a joke, a Floyd joke, and it was bad. It was bad in my opinion. But everyone ripped him a new one on it. But he still stood by it. It was like, well, blah blah. And it's like, that's not even comedy. That's not even funny at all. He did a mockery basically. And I was like, you don't mock people. You're supposed to be telling jokes. That's not a joke. That's a mockery, which means basically you're saying you don't think nobody's life matters, which is a different connotation, right? So it's hard to decipher. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Some people
and everyone makes mistakes as well. So one shouldn't be too judgmental. Give people the benefit of the doubt. But sometimes it's very obvious what they're trying to do. I'm not too quick to judge people. I'm not too quick to say, okay, this guy's being this or that guy's being that. But sometimes, I mean, if they really are, then it's usually obvious.
Right. Well, I have two questions here. One person said, I think it was Norma, said, is it funny? What did you say, Norma? Well, let's go with the one I see here, folks. That joke Oh, what you call says, yeah, that joke wasn't funny about the Planet of the Apes. No, Anthony, it was not at all in any way, shape, or form. And Norma says something, I don't see it now. Okay, this gentleman said, Santanu, you know him? He said, I just want to know if someone makes jokes on someone's death, is it really funny? That's just bullying? He's asking.
Again, it depends. I mean, you can be doing it in a nice way. For example, the Irish have these wakes where they drink beer after someone's death and have a good time and laugh and so on. So it all depends on the context. It's very difficult to say. The death is a very big topic, you know. People could make fun of
I have
me
a whole set. My daughter thinks my jokes are corny and she thinks it's horrible to talk about death. But I was like, I think they're funny. This is what I experienced.
Yeah. Well, when
my mother was not a mortician, the people that did the dead people's hair and the makeup, that's what my mother did. That's one of her side gigs, let's just say. She was a cosmetologist. So, I mean, there was a bunch of jokes from that, like a bunch. I was 7 years old doing dead people's hair. What's wrong with that? Like, you know. Now, some people say, well, they're dead. It's not funny. I'm not making fun of the dead. I'm making fun of the fact that I was 7 years old and had to watch the dead get their hair and face beat way better than mine can ever be as a model. That's what I'm making.
Yeah, that is funny. I probably shouldn't say it, but that is funny. So yeah, I can't. I can't think of a single topic that couldn't be funny sometimes, depending on how you say it. Just words, as I said. It's just words.
That's true. Very true. With just words. So remember when you watch a show, guys, that it is true. If you go to a comedy show, you're going to get comedy. That means come with an open mind and an open heart, whatever, because every comic is so different in how they not only experience something in life, but their perception. And that's what comedy is all about. My perception of what happened. Me and Raouf might watch the same exact thing, and I guarantee you it'll be two different versions. One of them you're gonna laugh at, you might laugh at both, you might laugh at none. But that's our version. And if a comic is in his truth or her truth, that's where the funny can actually come in, because they've learned how to twist it a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So don't be so, hold on to your britches. What's the saying? Messing up.
And it also depends. It depends. I mean, every audience member is different. Every audience has been through different things in life, and some things are more painful. So you've got to one of the most important things in comedy is judging your audience. Knowing what your audience is going to find funny, and some things you can't do with certain audiences. Some things you can. That's a very important skill which comedians sometimes don't pay attention to at all.
Yes, and that's what's screwing me up out here in the comedy world out here. Some American comics came into the pubs and was telling their corny Trump jokes and whatever jokes. And now they're like, no, we don't want that kind of comedy. I was like, I don't do those kind of jokes, first of all. And second of all, I never, ever diminish my audience under no circumstances, unless I got a heckler. And at which point only the heckler gets heckled, not anybody else. I never believe, because to me, I don't pay you to come see me so I can insult you. That's stupid. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But that's me. I don't mind. Some people, that's their living. Go for it. But for me, I don't have you pay to see me so I can insult you. Like, that's just, that doesn't for me. But
well, even if you're insulting people, they say insult yourself first and then insult the audience. Then they can accept it, right? That's what a lot of comedians do.
Yeah. And there's an art to insulting. There's a good art to that. I know some comics that are funny. And I don't know if they do it every time. They can make you laugh at being insulted on yourself. I mean, that's how clever they are. Yeah. So it's again a delivery and knowing your audience. You got to know your audience. Yeah. I mean, that's everything. Because if I walk in and I have an audience that's from around the world, immediately I have to go into my comedic catalog. And hopefully I'm world traveled, and hopefully I know a lot about different cultures. Because if I don't, that could be my trip fall right there. Like one joke I did one time, I forgot that they didn't have VHS. They had beta or something. So like some countries may have a different little tweak to certain pieces or things. So you got to take note of that as a comic, because if the joke falls flat, you'll be like, that's why, because they don't even have that. Right. Yeah. It's important to know your audience, I think. What's they say?
Yeah, that's right. And it's there's a slight difference here between wordplay comedy and What's the other kind? Observational comedy, because wordplay comedy depends more on the language itself, whereas observation is more of a performance where you're combining what you say with how you perform. There's some wordplay comics, for example, who are people like Emo Phillips and Steve Wright. They almost deliberately perform in a half-dead way because it's just the words that matter for them. And people who follow them and get used to it takes a while to get used to that kind of comedy. For example, when I watched the Jerry Seinfeld show for the first time, I didn't find it funny at all. But then once I watched it 2 or 3 times, I found it very funny. So there are different kinds of humor which, if you haven't experienced before, it takes you a while to get used to, right? So the comics like that who do wordplay comedy, Steve Wright and Emo Phillips, who are two of my favorite comics.
Right.
You're just listening to the words, nothing else. It's not how they move around on stage. It's not how they deliver their jokes. It's just the words. So there's a difference there. So if you have good writing, then for a wordplay audience, which is a minority, most audiences prefer so-called, what's it called again? Observational comedy. But for the audiences that does like wordplay comedy, your language and the words are the most important thing. So there's a slight difference there. But of course, as you say, comedy in general is a performance. So it's not just what you're saying, it's how you're performing. And the audience forms a perception of you. And then they are not, somebody may tell the same joke that you do, but nobody will laugh. But when you tell it, they laugh. So it's the performance almost more than the jokes, I think. I think the performance matters more than the jokes, especially in observational comedy.
Yes.
Because,
what was I going to say? It definitely does matter. And I also think that, even though there's comics who steal jokes, it still doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, when you hear their jokes and if they've stolen their material, you'll get to know it after a while, because you're like, that's not something they would say, or that's not the delivery they would normally, approach they would take. So you discover that too. When I first started, which I was very flattered by, but whatever. I did a show at where was it? I did a graduation show. It was because I took a comedy school class with Andy Engel. Just because, even though I know you have to go and actually do the mics to get better, I also felt like there's certain ethics to this business and things going on that I have no idea. It's going to take me longer to figure out if I don't know all the aspects. So I figured, you know what? I'll hit the mics. But most importantly, I'm going to hit this class, because then I get to understand, okay, what can I not get from the mic? I mean, you get it, but it's going to take you a while. You got to figure it out. Now, I don't have time for that. So
I slightly disagree, because you do pick up tips there. Yeah. But I think if you perform enough, you pick up everything, even if you pick it up in little bits and pieces. But I suppose you're right. If you go to, if you talk to someone who is very experienced, they can give you some tips and so on. But the most important thing, even then, you have to start performing. You can't just he can't just say something to you and then you become a great comedian the next day. Performing is what really teaches you, because even if you know exactly what jokes to make, you have to deliver them right, and especially at a live show. And then you just, after a while, you do it instinctively.
Right. And after 10,000 hours, you get good.
It takes a long time. For example, shall we answer Shantanu's question before going on? He's asking.
Yes.
Can you read his question?
Suppose you are performing in front of 10 people and you are making fun of one of them, and the other 9 people are enjoying a lot, but that person is offended. Then what do? Cater to the 9 people or that particular person?
Well, he's asking he's not asking what should you do. He's asking what would you do, which is of course there's a different answer to that. Some comics would keep going, and some comics would try to make that person feel better. So that's what they would do. I personally would try to make that person feel better, while not, but keep everybody in good humor and assure him that we're just joking. I might just say that. I might say we're just. It's just a comedy show. Don't kill yourself afterwards or something like that. In a nice way. I'd have to find out how to say it. Sometimes you actually have to say that. You have to say things like that.
Yeah. Because again, it depends on the audience and the type of person it is. I mean, there's a bunch to that. Like if I said,
and the comic, and the comic, because some comics are intentionally cruel to people, and and that works for them, which is fine. Then when you go to a show, people normally know what he's they understand that if he's successful doing comedy that way, they understand what's going to happen, and then they don't mind what you say because the audience already knows what to expect, and then nobody gets offended usually. But if you go to a comic and you don't know what to expect, and he starts doing things that you don't like, then of course you feel bad. And then as he asked, what would you do? Some comics would try to make that person feel better, and some wouldn't. But whether you should or not, I'm not going to make judgments on that either. I don't judge people. I don't judge comics. You can do whatever you want. I personally would not want anybody to feel too bad.
That's how I get down. That's my rule of thumb. Unless you're heckling me, I didn't come to make you have a bad night. I came to make you laugh. That's my intent. Not to make you leave pissed off and revengeful. Now I got to worry about tomatoes being thrown at me every time I get on stage. But not appealing.
Well, here in India, we make comics make so little money that we try to get people to throw tomatoes at us so that we get something to eat at least. But that's a different matter.
That's a good one. I like that one. So I know a half an hour is up already, but so in regards to, we can go on. It doesn't matter. In regards to discrimination and sexism in comedy, how is it in the scene in India versus here? Because we get a lot of it, but it's so covert. How did it say covert? Oh, covert. I don't know. I said the wrong.
No, India is a very sexist country. You know that. But comedy, the comics are a little more enlightened because comedy comes from the West, right? Comedy is very new here. And so what comics in the West are doing, people here kind of follow after a while.
Yeah.
And if, for example, if sexist jokes are not in fashion anymore, then in a little while they won't be in fashion here either. So because stand-up comedy is not an Indian tradition. It's just about a decade old. Well, more than that, but something not much more than a decade old here. It's very different. Punchline-based comedy did not exist here. Comedy here was like a guy doing comedy on TV would be, for example, a guy dressing up in women's clothes or something, or literally, throwing banana skins and so on. Slapstick and energetic performance without any real jokes. And people still don't fully get it because if you want to hear a quick story, then there's something here called the Great Indian Laughter Challenge, which is on TV every year. And a couple of years ago, every year they look for people, they want to have auditions. So the person phoned me and said, do you have any people in Calcutta for our Calcutta auditions? So I gave them a bunch of stand-up comedians. And they went for the audition and they enjoyed it a lot because the judges had not judged stand-up comedy before. They really liked it. So they asked me for more names. I gave them some names in Delhi and so on. And that year, the Great Indian Laughter Challenge for the first time had only stand-up comedians in it. Ever. And then the show did not work because people didn't get it. People don't get it. It takes a while to get that kind of comedy. So then they had to get like Bollywood film stars to do some slapstick and so to rescue the show. It's humor is not objective. It's not like a joke is not objectively funny ever. It's just how you look at it, how your culture sees it. Right. So no joke is funny in itself. It's always how you perform and how you deliver and what the audience thinks. So that's just an example of how it all depends on the context.
Wow, that's amazing. And so when you have, I noticed I've seen women on your shows, which I personally like, and I see all types of people, literally Asian, white, black, Chinese, whatever, every denomination known to man, which I really like because.
Man, did you say man? Did you say man?
Well, I'm man, woman, boy, girl, whatever. I'm just
known to man. You said you shouldn't say that. You can't say that anymore. Anyway, just kidding. Yeah.
That's true. Well, hey, they will pretty soon ban that too. But I just like it because, so there's a lot of shows in New York, tons of shows. But I used to often find, which is how I started producing shows, because I was like, you know what? I make my own table always. Even if it's two people at it, I always make my own table because that's how my mother taught me. You know what I'm saying? Don't go begging for someone's scraps. You go make your own. That's it. And it may not be as big as your, gold line table or whatever, or Henry VIII Baroque chairs. But it's still in your empowerment and you're doing it as your thing.
Yes.
So I love when we get comics like Luz Michelle, who does her own shows. I love Dante, what's his name? Dante, I forgot Dante's last name, really. Dante, other comics who literally, Nicole Spain, there's so many who just, you know what, I'm doing my own thing. I don't care how it hits, it's going to hit. And they just do it because for women, And I felt for minorities, even though you and I agreed that funny's funny. Doesn't matter what color you are. If you're funny, you're funny, period. Color will not even be an option in it because people are busy laughing at the joke, right? I agree with that 100%. But there's some places that do not give minority and female comics the same opportunities as they do men. So I like these side gigs that are going on because now, at least if nothing else, these women and these people are those people and the general population, because it doesn't mean, like, I like for people to see comics of all nationalities, all backgrounds, whatever, because I feel like some kid who wants to do comedy is watching. So if they only see someone with hats, they're going to think, well, I have to have a hat to do comedy, right? That's what they're going to think. What else do they see, right? But if they see people with hats and shades and scarves and clothes and gloves and whatever boxes, they'll be like, oh, well, I can do it too. No problem. And they can respect anybody who looks like that because now they're not thinking that that person's out of the box. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for me, that's why I try, can't always do it. I try to promote everything when I can and everyone. There's times where you want to do only men show, only women show. I get that. No problem. I'm not saying that. I'm saying when people purposely keep boom, 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 putting these stereotypes and images and things out there, that's just not right because there are children, kids, teenagers, whatever, watching who may not have great role model at home. And even if they do, we're not supposed to be role models, but your visual is everything. What you see and who you're around is everything. So if you're not around anyone who has hats on, guess what? Why do you have a hat on? What's wrong with you? Something wrong with you? You have a hat on. There must be something wrong. Instead of saying, well, maybe there's something wrong with me. I never seen a hat. No, that's not how it goes. Something's wrong with you because you have a hat on. And I grew up around people with no hats. It doesn't make sense, so I like your shows. You put everybody on. You hit all the communities. And I know it's not totally quote unquote intentional. You're not seeking it out. You're seeking out funny people who happen to be,
Well, I look at it as for those Zoom shows, I try to get people from all over the world.
Right.
That I do that, but I don't look for people from any specific country. I look for just funny people from all over the world. I do look for variety in that sense, if you want to call it diversity or whatever. I do look for variety because there's different kinds of humor in different parts of the world. And so it's nice to hear different comics from different parts of the world doing different kinds of humor. And it's also good for the performers to test their jokes and see how they work on people from other countries. That's one of the main benefits of these shows for me as well. Trying out some jokes and seeing how they work in different parts of the world. There's some jokes which might work for me very well here, but might not work at all somewhere else. So that's a good, that's almost what you're supposed to do at an open mic, right? Try stuff and see how it works. So I often do that at these shows as well.
Nice. I love open mics. I think they're fabulous. My favorite has gone away in not New Rochelle. Well, New Rochelle was one, Backyard Pub, and some other places in Harris. There was some quite good ones that I was able to be a part of, but I still have friendships from them. From Debbie Baza, a lot of people who.
How's Debbie, by the way?
She's fabulous as always. She's taken off. She's doing her thing.
That's good.
Yes, it's a matter of time, I say. The people have been putting in the 15 years and all those. It's a matter of time, and they have to think out of the box because, as we see from all the drama going on with all the Cat Williams stuff, telling the business, Mike Tyson, everybody coming out the woodwork, telling all the stuff about the industry. It's like, okay, we know this already, but now that we really know it and people are verifying it, anybody who has not been able to get in, you need to figure out your own way to get in. There is a way. You just have to figure it out, and you can't be sucking up to people who may not be in your line of what you want to do to make it. So, I mean, are you going to put on a dress? I don't know.
Yeah, I'll try that. That works here.
That works there. Well, when I think of, now looking at it, I'm like, darn, is that why they always put them on demasculating the men? I couldn't figure that out. But now that I know, it makes sense. But I will say my favorite comedians were Jerry Lewis, Benny Hill, who always was, remember, he was a patient in the nursing home and he would do all kinds of crazy stuff. So I'm like, I don't know. It could work in some instances. But to me, only if you're making all cultures do it. That's the catch for me, because the reason why that stereotype comes is because it appears that they try to demasculate African men, of African diaspora men. Is
You
what
mean specific producers? Specific producers. Okay, well, that's I mean,
yeah, but
yeah. I mean, you'll always have different people trying to do different things.
put it this way: Jerry Seinfeld has never been put in a dress. Put it that way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When he gets in a dress, then everybody can wear a dress. You see what I'm saying?
All right.
When he gets in it, then I'll be like, okay, that's great. But to me, the disconnect for me comes when you have only certain cultures you do it more to than others.
Okay.
And that's for anything. That's for anything. So I'm not saying one specific person, one specific thing. I'm just saying in general, in media, if you're showing only people with hats commit crimes, I got a problem with that, because we know that's not true, right? We know that's not true at all. The white collar crime is for real and phenomenal. So not phenomenal, but it's beyond borders right now. So we don't want to put these stereotypes in people's head. That's when I have a problem. I don't like when people just put one person in the thing. Because remember, I'm thinking always from the terms of young people watching. That's what I'm always thinking about. So
okay, well, I'm not as conscious of that as you are. I'm much more selfish than you are, but yeah, in general, I don't try to harm people or hurt people. That's the most important thing, I think.
Right. Yes, that's true, and that's what it's about. I mean, I think we should be making people laugh, not cry or be pissed off. Unless you
exactly, it's not a good show if people are crying or pissed off. It's not a failure of the audience; it's your failure, because that's not a good show. If people are not laughing and people are, then it's not a good show.
Right. Well, one other thing before we go. So comics, when we do this, I would like for the audience to understand the art of bombing, but failing, however you want to call the word, is for us the not revengeance. The beauty of it is when we've done a bad joke or silence hits the room like crickets. The beauty for us is coming back again another time and then getting it right.
Yes. Of course, you should try to do that at open mics and not at shows, right? And that's why you should test your joke many times at open mics. That's what a comic should try to do usually before a show. Test your jokes many times. You might have your friends at one open mic rolling on the floor insincerely, but that won't happen at a show. So you've got to test it many times a day. That's the safest way to do it. And that's why you go to open mics. You go there to bomb. You go there to see what jokes are not working. And then you think, okay, maybe I can change this joke a bit and try it a little differently. And don't give up just try it again. Even if you don't make any changes, it might just be the audience. It might be the way you told it. So that's ideally the way. I mean, if a comic has the opportunity, he should do a lot of open mics, test his jokes there, and then he can be reasonably certain that they'll work at a show if they're working consistently at open mics. Because I mean, you get different kind of audiences, and if they're working with most of them most of the time, then it's pretty likely that it'll work at a show there.
Right. Well, thank you so much. Well, before you give me one last piece of advice for any new comic, how can people find you, first of all, and then you'll tell us what's going on for this month, and then
I'm not on social media much. I'll tell you what. I'm experimenting with a new comic strip called birdplay.com. So go to birdplay.com and you can send me a message there. Not wordplay, but birdplay.com.
I got that. Okay.
Birdplay, BIRDPLAY. I'm just experimenting with that. I'm gonna try to promote it a little later. I'm gonna try to get it distributed later. I'm just trying it out now. So if you want to reach me, you can go there and send me a message.
And it's Raouf under Raouf Gangjee.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to make sure I get it right, because so we got that. So you guys, you can find him there. He's trying this new site out, and you can look on my page. There are flyers for. I guess you have a show coming next Sunday.
Yeah, we do. We have on the first day of every month. This one has comics from Italy, the US, and South Africa, and Uganda, if I remember correctly.
Kenya and Uganda, yes.
Kenya, sorry, Kenya.
Yeah, no, you're right. La Capata, I can't say the name of it. I forgot. But yeah, but that's great.
Say the name of what?
I forgot the name of it. Oh my
gosh. The name of the comic.
Kampala or something, but it's a part of Kenya. So my bad. I'm sorry.
I'll tell you. His name is Marvin Githinji.
Marvin Githinji.
Well, my name is Gangjee. His is Githinji, so that's not difficult for me because I can say my own name. Which are almost like it. So.
Right. Well, you guys, you've seen here. One last piece of advice for any new comic starting.
Well, I'll say the same thing that I say to all new comics. Forget everything else, just perform. Just go to open mics and perform. That's enough. You don't need any more than that, because everything else will come to you. Comics will come up to you and give you advice, even unsolicited advice that you don't want to hear. Everything you pick up, everything by performing, and I think the performance is more important even than the jokes for most comedians. And so you've got to get that right. You've got to somehow get your body language right, so that the crowd connects to that, because the crowd doesn't just connect to your jokes. And of course, if you keep performing, you learn how to deliver the jokes correctly. That's also kind of nonverbal. It's your tone of voice, how you're moving on the stage, what you're saying, how you're delivering it, whether loudly, softly, etc. That's the most important thing. And there's only one way to learn that, and that's, nobody can teach you that. So you just learn that by performing. It's like a cricket player. Okay, cricket is like baseball. Cricket players go and play cricket at the nets. They call them the nets. They have those nets behind them, and then they play for 2 hours a day. Somebody bowls at them, and they block the ball and hit the one. They do it for hours and hours. Why do they do that? Just so that, because the more you do it, the better you get. Even if it's a small incremental increase, it makes you much better. So you learn only by performing, not by somebody. If I tell you, go and play cricket, look, stand there with the bat like this, and the ball will come and you hit it, that'll teach you nothing. You just have to go and play. That's it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So guys, you heard it. If your comedy is your thing and you really want to do it, you got to just hit on them stage. Go to Badslava, BAD.com. They have list of all the mics worldwide, from here to Japan. If you need to find out where's a mic, preferably I say go to a free one. Don't pay nobody, because you shouldn't have to pay nobody to make them laugh. Come on. Really. But there's tons all over the world. BAD, Slava, SLAVA.com. That's how you can really learn, is by going to those mics. And if they don't have one in your town, hit up the local bar, restaurant, the quiet one that don't have nobody in there Monday, Tuesday night. And you say to them, listen, I'll bring people who will buy sodas or water, whatever the pizzas, whatever they have. And that's how you make a little relationship. And if you bring enough people, they might say, hey, maybe you could do a show once a month. That's how you can start making it. Okay.
Exactly. It's 100%. That's what I did in Calcutta. There was no comedy in Calcutta, so I started a group here. I started comedy here in Calcutta. So that's what you can do for yourself anywhere. You can do that anywhere. Yeah.
That's amazing. That is amazing. We thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. Do me one favor. Tell me one joke so I can clip it and put it out there for later. Give me one joke.
All right. So Tanya, are you married at the moment? This one, I don't know if you know. So we have arranged marriage here and love marriage. We have two kinds of marriage here: arranged marriage and love marriage. So, what would you think, an arranged marriage makes more sense, or a love marriage? What would you say?
I need arranged at this point.
Arranged. Okay, yeah, that's a smart choice. I'll tell you why. Because see, arranged marriage is when people start sleeping together only after marriage, whereas love marriage is when you stop. Anyway.
I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Raouf Gangjee. You are the best. Guys, make sure that you go check out my page if you don't know how to find him. He's brilliant, and you will be seeing more next Sunday. I think New York time is 10:30-ish, 11:30-ish in the morning. So some of you at church, I get it.
11:30 after daylight savings time, yeah.
Yes, 11:30. Yeah. So if you're home and you wanted to,
you can sleep till 11:29. You can sleep till 11:29. That's a long time now.
Exactly. Just try your best to watch it. Norma, you got, so Grandma got the joke. Like, all right, you're clever. Good for you. But you just try to watch it, because that's where you discover new comics. Plus, it's just fun to wake up laughing. I mean, that's how I see it. So try to check it out. And my London people who are in London, April 11th, I'll be at the Top Secret Comedy Club. Thank you for the spot. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Tanya. Tell me all about it afterwards, okay? Because I'm not in London. Yeah. Okay. All right. Nice to see you again. Nice to see you again.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
Take care.
Bye.